Hi, Math 15ers. I'm going to go over some details about, or big picture really, about point slope form of a linear equation. Now, if you want details, if you want examples of how to do different types of problems and answer specific things that the book asks, there's another video which has lots of details. This is a big concept video. I think it's very important for you to watch because I think it's really the right one for you guys as an audience. Let me share my screen with you. I want to go back to something we did in class a couple of days ago. We were talking about doing a little Desmos project. So in this Desmos project, you had to put in some points, 3, 5, and 1, -2, and find the slope between those points and put them into the graph using Desmos. And then you had to use y minus k equals m times x minus h in order to get sliders and then try to get that line to line up perfectly. So let's take a look at it in Desmos. I hope in doing this project that you realized that m was slope. And if you did, and you had calculated the slope, you would have calculated 7/2 or 3.5, using 3.5 as a slope. And then I'm hoping that in order to make this go directly through the two lines, you picked either 1 for h and -2 for k, or 3 for h and 5 for k. So notice right now my line is going through here perfectly. Whoa, boy, didn't mean to do that. Let's get this back to normal. And going through there exactly where it's supposed to be. And that's using k as -2 and h as 1. If we change this h to 3 and the k to 5, notice I'm using the two values in the ordered pairs. We also have a perfect match on the line. Now, I want to get rid of these sliders and just type these values in here. So we're going to type in 7 divided by 2, that's the slope. And for k, we're going to type in 5. And for h, we're going to type in 3. Okay, let's get rid of the sliders. Now we're clearly just looking at the linear equation of this line as it presents. Now notice if I click on the point 3, 5, that's one of the xy values that makes this equation true. How does it make it true? It makes it true because when we plug in 3, 5, we plug a 3 in for x here, we wind up with 0. We plug a 5 in for y here, we wind up with 0. So both sides wind up 0 because when you multiply 0 times the slope, it winds up 0. So that's a true equation because that point perfectly gets 0 and 0 on both sides. Now, with this point down here of 1, -2, we can plug 1, -2 into this equation and it will work. We plug in 1 over here, we wind up with 1 minus 3, that's -2. The -2 cancels with the 2, leaving -7 on this side. And then the other value that we're using for y over here is 2. So 2 minus 5 is -3. So that's true for that point too. It's true for actually every single point on this line. That's why it's a line. That's why we've talked about how graphing these lines is a series of an infinite number of points, right? But what's cool about this is that this ordered pair creates that truth, but also the other ordered pair will create that truth as well. So we can plug in -2 here, and as long as we match that up with the 1 of the ordered pair, we have the 1, -2. As long as we match it up, we wind up with the same line again. Okay, so let's show this on paper. We'll kind of formalize how we're going to work with point slope form. Okay, so to start with, need some markers. To start with, let's pull this down a little bit, make it a little bigger. How's that? To start with, the slope we figure out by using the two y values, the -2 minus the 5, and the two x values, the 1 minus the 3, as long as they're lined up properly. We talked about slope a few classes ago. we get 7/2, right? Once we reduce everything. So y minus, well, the two ordered pairs, let's write down the two ordered pairs so we have them and we don't get them mixed up with anything, are 1, -2, and are 3, 5. Okay, so point slope form, we actually don't use k and h. We should use k and h, but we don't. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where x1 and y1 are one of these ordered pairs, and m is the slope. So we can write the equation y minus, we'll pick the 5, equals 7/2 times x. Now, since we picked the 5, I got to use the 3. Now, notice we have minus signs in the equation. So even though these values are positive, we wind up with minus signs here. Now, if you think about this, well, we'll do this in a second. We'll do something else with slope in a second. Then we also, so that's one possible equation in point slope form. Point slope form. All right. Another possible equation for the exact same line, is y minus, well, actually y plus 2, because we have a -2 here, and we have negative in the equation. So y plus 2 equals 7/2 times x minus 1. So this is using the other ordered pair, the 1 and the -2, and it's the same exact line. All right, we saw that on Desmos. They graph exactly the same way. Now, another way to think about this is, or where this comes from, is the slope equation is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, well, a linear equation has x and y in it that are allowed to change. They're allowed to vary. We call them variables because of where they're allowed to vary. That's what generates all the infinite number of points on the line. So if we take this equation and we plug in the slope and we leave x2 and y2 to be the actual just x and y, and then we subtract to it one of the points. Let's say we subtract 1 and -2. -2 and the 1 in the proper places. We got to get the y value and the x value from up here. So the y value goes on top, the x value goes on the bottom, and we put those in. And then if we cross multiply, or not cross multiply, but multiply by this x minus 1 that's in the denominator to get it out of the denominator, we wind up with 7/2 times x minus 1 equals y minus, well, minus -2 is plus 2. All right. And that is the same that we have here, right? It's just what's on the right is on the left, and what's on the left is on the right, okay? So as you can see, point slope form is just an extension of the slope equation itself, the formula to find out slope. So with that, I think you can answer lots of questions from the text. That's point slope form. That's point slope form. What Ms. Taylor does in her video is she goes through how to use that, how to answer questions, particular types of questions that the book asks. And if that's helpful for you, you should watch her video. And if you want to just try the homework after watching this video, that's totally fine too.